What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Jury House podcast. I'm Noah Massey,
And I'm Jimmy L.
and we are here to talk about Week 8 of Big Brother 3. And Jimmy, the devil is gone.
I was gonna say the devil is busy, but I like yours better. I like yours better. I will say I was listening to. Obviously no spoilers, but listening to the ending when they were doing the interview with his parents.
Mhm.
And so they were talking about how they, thought his game was playing, Roddy's game was playing, and everything. And so I was like, I really wanted to know what did they think about Danielle consistently calling him the devil, Satan, and Lucifer. And I was just like, I wanted them to ask the parents. Like I wanted to hear their perspective, but of course we never did. But that would have been funny. That would have been hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. They went more with the Amy angle
Mm-hmm.
of things, and
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, really didn't touch on the woman that's been trying to get their son out
Out
of
of
the
the house.
house
Mm-hmm.
for the last
Mm-hmm.
few weeks.
Crazy, flat out crazy.
Cra- Crazy indeed. Yeah, this we're getting into the end game here, and we thought maybe Roddy might be able to pull this one out, and I think we'll be getting into some good stuff here. I think we've got a good end game here. But before we can get into any of that, let us get into this week of Big Brother 3. And so we open with episode 24. Gerry has just been evicted by a vote of 4-0, and people are feeling it. People are sad to see him go.
Yeah.
Jason feels like they've lost the dad of the family, and so there is some sadness kind of brewing through the house, and we get an interesting comment from Marcellas. It seems he's finally landed on good feelings for Gerry. He is, he says, when he left, the gravity of our relationship really hit me. I really did believe that he was my friend. And, I think this is jury management if I've ever seen it.
100%. 100%.
It's like, did he forget that the last 7 weeks of the game happened and are all on tape?
I think he did.
Yeah.
Like, because honestly, I'd really forgotten, to be honest with you. I'd forgotten that Gerry had saved Marcellas. And I just, like, even from a Marcellas perspective, on one hand, I'm just like, you don't owe him the game. You don't owe Gerry the game. But you do have to at least acknowledge that if he had not done that, because it's not like you made a strategic move to get Gerry convinced, to convince him to do anything. You really didn't do that. So Marcellus can't take the credit for that. And so, like, I get acknowledging it, but I think that's a one-time thing. Let it go and be done. Like, and even screw the damn jury management at this point. I don't think I would care about it, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like you have had this weird relationship with Gerry this whole time. It's like that's probably a vote that you're not going to get. So
anyway, yeah.
Right. Why are we doing this thing where you're kind of trying to rewrite history here, cuz it's very transparent. I I'm surprised that Marcellus seems to have forgotten that Gerry was the one that took him off the block in the first week, because I feel like that was such a big part of Gerry's story, and like the reason that the whole house was against him. That I'm surprised that Marcellus didn't have more sympathy for him throughout the game. But again, this is Marcellus we're talking about. He goes up and down with how he feels about people. And yeah.
He does. He does.
Especially this week. So we get Danielle in the DR saying it's nothing personal, it's just business. And I will say the one thing that is interesting from this segment is this house is really shaken by what Julie did last week, where she did a little bit of a fake out with Amy there. And it does, I don't think it usually works on the house guests too well, but here it does.
Yeah, it did. And I kind of understood it, at least from their perspective, because you really don't have anything else going on. You're listening to Julie. You're hearing her as the voice of truth. And so you're assuming that what's coming out of her mouth is accurate. So I get it. But I definitely disliked that they spent so much time even going around to the different house guests to kind of get their perspective on, what Julie said and how she did that to Amy. And, like, I feel like that was wasted minutes. Like, you could have put that effort into the next, like, food competition, or like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Put that somewhere else. Like, yeah, I didn't care for it. At least not their responses.
Yeah, I feel like they have to have such a big reaction to people leaving. They have to have that segment, and there's just sometimes where people don't really care. There's not much that's going on there, so it's like, why bother? Just they're gone. Let's get to it. So 6 down, 4 to go.
Of course.
So after Gerry leaves, everybody's in the kitchen and they're all celebrating the fact that they've made it so far. And I thought it was very funny because Amy starts clapping along with the group, and Jason cuts in to remind her that she hasn't been there for like half the game.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I really appreciated that from him.
Same. And they also actually said it multiple times throughout the week. And so I'm with you. I'm glad that was a continual reminder for her. Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In one aspect, it feels like we didn't have that much time away from her, and in another aspect, it is kind of wild to think about the fact that it has been so much time that she has actually missed here. And but yeah, she's just trying to play it off as like, oh yeah, guys, we're all in this together. So we get the HOH competition. We get the result, which is that Marcellas wins, and Amy is ecstatic, and she starts calling herself the first lady of the head of household room, and that does not sit too well with some people, including one Roddy Mancuso. Not the last time that he is gonna have some words with Amy, but he tells her that her comment was insensitive to those who are eligible for nomination. And I get it. I do get it, and I actually am surprised that more people don't call out this kind of behavior in other seasons of Big Brother, when their allies, when somebody wins and then you have the allies of that person like getting all excited, like, you never have anyone calling out that behavior. You have them maybe complain about it to the other people that they're on the outs with, but I don't feel like we've ever necessarily seen this type of confrontation.
So I will say it rubbed me the wrong way for Roddy to approach her. rubbed me the wrong way. I don't think the way he did it, it was almost as if he was scolding her like a teacher and a student. And so that, or a parent and a child, like
Right.
that really frustrated me coming from him. I wish it would have come from Marcellas. The best thing I think I heard from his scolding was, when you do this, like, you remind people that you two are the last couple in the house.
Right.
And so when he said it, I was like, "Oh damn!" I was like, "That, like, girl, like that would be a target on your back with your dumb ass. Like, that would be like, I would hope you would remember that." But I forgot. Like, I truly forgot. So I'm glad that he did at least bring that at least back to my attention. Like, there's still a couple in the house. Like, at this point, you know. And so, but she's, yeah, being Amy.
She is being Amy, and yeah, this is kind of the start for me of, I feel like throughout this week we kind of see behavior from Roddy where he's really laying on the guilt, and
Yes.
he's really just playing it in such a way that he comes off kind of like the victim here, and
Yeah.
you know
Mm-hmm.
it's like, all right, like, I get that you're upset that you're probably going up on the block, and but it's just like, why can't she be excited that her friend won and she's safe? It's kind of like, if you don't want to be in the position that you're in, then you should have been really working Marcellus
Or win head of household.
or win head of household, right?
Like, just win the
Be-
competition.
because especially, like, you're telling me that if Kiara was still in the house and you won HOH, that wouldn't be the exact same reaction that she would have, and it's not like you would tell her off for that. So why
Would
are we
not.
doing it here?
Agreed. Agreed. Well said. I love that. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
So, meanwhile, Marcellus is in the kitchen and he can see that this conversation is taking place, but he's getting kind of a different read on what's going on here. He thinks that Roddy's trying to get in Amy's ear so that Amy will try to get in Marcellus's ear, and he says in the diary room, like, Amy doesn't have any sway over me. I know that whatever I tell her, she's going to take that info and she's going to run with it. And then we get the flashback to when Amy won the HOH and she told Roddy, hey, like, essentially, this was given to me because everybody wants Kiara out. And so Marcellus is not really looking to share too much info with Amy there. And,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
yeah,
glad that he's coming around to that,
yeah,
because I think the words that he used, that he really doesn't trust her.
yeah.
And so and I get it, because you love her on a personal level, but in the game you cannot, and I get that. I
Hmm.
also think that a piece of jealousy
Hmm.
is in that,
Yeah.
with from Marcellus against Amy and Roddy's relationship, or whatever is going on. I personally think that there's a bit of jealousy in that. Like, he's a little upset with that piece.
Yeah, I agree. We will see a little bit later that Roddy and Amy are getting a lot closer
Yeah.
in this week here. So I think that definitely tracks that Marcellus doesn't just see Roddy as a threat in terms of the game, but also in, like, hey, this guy's stealing my best friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, um, so we also get in the diary room kind of what Marcellus's mindset is in terms of what he wants to do this week, and he does say, like, everyone's pushing for Roddy to go. Maybe that would be a good idea here, but he does throw out the fact that Danielle, she's kind of the front runner
Front
here,
run.
and
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it's time to make that move. And he's starting to express some regret that now he's gonna be the one that probably has to make the move on Roddy. And he is wishing that he did not win this HOH. And to that I say, then don't win the HOH.
But it would have made for damn good TV had he put up Roddy and Danielle. Oh, that would have made for some damn good TV. Oh my goodness. I hate that he didn't do it, but I digress.
It would have been really interesting. That would have been, because going into this next week, then I think Lisa even talks about it. She's like, if he would have done that, then you have a situation where I'm kind of in the middle here, and so no one's really looking at me. So we could have gotten some interesting dynamics there.
Because honestly, all you would have needed was, because you would have had Amy's vote.
Yeah.
On whatever you wanted to do. All you would have needed to get was Lisa. An attempt to get Jason, but all you would have needed was Lisa.
Yep. And if it's a tie, then you break the tie.
Only three. It was only 3 people.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. 3. Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
So they. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What could have been?
Could have been. I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry. I'm derailing here.
No, you're good. You're good. So Danielle and Lisa have a conversation, and Danielle asks Lisa if she thinks Roddy's nervous. Lisa says yes, and she says that she hopes he doesn't come to her with a deal if he goes up. And so then they are kind of speculating about, okay, well, if Roddy goes up, who is the person that is the likely pawn here? And Danielle seems to think that this is another spot where Jason could potentially go up, because she's like, if that is what happens, then Roddy's never going to campaign against Jason. He can't do that. And so that is a possibility there. She also throws out the possibility that Amy and Roddy could be going up as a pair there. But that does not stop her from warning Jason that he might be going up.
And so what happened? Because I don't understand, why are they even thinking that Jason is on the radar from Marcellas? Because in my mind, I'm like, I haven't seen anything that would prompt that.
I think it's one of those scenarios where it's like, okay, you want the devil to go up, so then you put the angel next to him. You put up the person that everybody is gonna want to save, because nobody has any real desire to want Jason to go right now. Like I even though they have talked about Jason kind of being that social threat, I really think people like him too much to really want to get him out of the house. And so I think it's a situation where it's like, okay, you got to pick the person that nobody's going to want to vote out to ensure that Roddy goes. And so I think that's kind of what her thought process is.
I gotcha. Okay. But does she really think that Marcellas would think like that? You know what I mean?
Right. That's giving him a lot of
credit.
A lot of credit.
Strategic credit. Like, come on. Yeah. No offense, Marcellas, if you're listening, but like, come
on. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah. I don't know. It's that's kind of my read on where things were at in the house, but it could be either way, I guess. So we talked a little bit ago about how Amy and Roddy are starting to get closer, and we get a segment where Roddy is really starting to flirt with Amy here. Amy's really starting to flirt back, and this segment, I had completely forgotten about it. I didn't even know that this was a plot line, a thing that happened in this season, but it put so many things into clarity for me in terms of Amy's character and a little bit of Roddy's, that it was interesting to see because we had talked about when Kiara was still in the house and Amy and Kiara were having those issues. We talked about how Amy had said that Kiara was a certain type of person that
Mhm.
she just didn't respect. And
Mhm.
that was something that always confused me because I was like, I thought that they were essentially two sides of the same coin. Like I saw no difference between the two of them, that I was like, all right, how does Amy think that she is any more like high class
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
Kiara
Mhm.
here? And this really shined light on the fact that it was never about, oh, she's trashy or whatever. It was that she had a crush on
Mhm.
Roddy and she just wanted Kiara out of the
And
way.
he, and I guess I did not articulate it well, but I was just I know this girl,
Right,
like I know this girl, it made sense to me, like
right.
complete sense, and then you have this southern charm that you throw out there, like such as bless your heart, and like all of these things to try to disguise, like to put somebody else down to uplift you. Like I know this person. And so
Right.
like I understood it. I didn't realize that it confused you on that level. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
it's possible that I wasn't thinking about it in that way, that I wasn't thinking about it as, Amy saw herself, and I guess it makes a lot more sense now, this idea of when you are like a young person, whether it be a young man or a young woman, and you like someone and they're with someone else, that you
Mm-hmm.
will start to kind of rationalize in your head why you're so much better than the person they're going out with, and why
Mm-hmm.
you're so much better of a fit, why you're so much more refined. So I am not a person that has had too much experience with relationships, I guess, that I wasn't really thinking about it like that. So I was just kind of confused why
I
Amy
got you.
was like that, but now
Okay.
it makes total sense.
So I will say this as well, still along the lines of the segment of Amy and Roddy. It frustrated me, and then you have your friend Marcellas, who is
Mhm.
trying to look out for you, trying to tell you and have these conversations with you, sidebar, to let you know
Yep,
how you're being
coming
perceived and
off.
how you're coming off. But
Yep,
I'm just like Amy, you're doing exactly what Kiara was doing, like from
yep,
the no bra. Come, like, oh my lord, come on, like, oh my gosh, like this overt, like this over the top flirting, and come on, and he's saying everything that you want to hear, like you're falling for him, like his charm now, like it is more and more evident this week as to why Danielle calls him the devil, and how charming he is, and because again, he was just doing this exact same thing with Marcellas a couple of weeks ago. And so
yep.
I'm like, he's now doing this with you, and she is falling. She is falling.
He tempts you. He tempts you with the apple, and
Mm.
if you take a bite of it, you're gone.
Just bloop.
It's it, yeah, it's so weird. So Roddy, it's so weird because he comes off as such a nice guy,
Yeah.
and then he starts doing stuff like this, and it's like, I want to like you so bad
Yeah.
because I feel like he would be a really cool person to like hang out with and talk to,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, he just does stuff like this, and I'm like, come on, man.
So meeting not meeting, but seeing his parents in the end put things into perspective for me. And
Okay.
I literally just told Winston about it because I think I saw a gavel in his father's study. And
Oh,
so I said, oh, so maybe he's a judge or something along that lines. And he's the youngest. Roddy is the youngest of the
right.
family.
Yep.
And I said, okay, I'm the baby, so I already know that comes with its own things. Just it is what it is. You think you're more
Right.
than everybody else anyway. But anyway, but aside from
Yeah.
that, I was like, okay, I could see him being from a politician's background, which
Right.
means he knows how to lay that charm on. Like that's
Yep.
all that he's ever known. And so it is for me, it's very hard, especially now, very hard to try to figure out what box he goes. Kind of like I felt about Danielle. Like I don't know what box to put him in because I don't like I know that he's the devil.
Right.
I know that his charm is there and I know he's going to use it to his benefit. I can know that, but ever truly being friends with somebody like that, I don't think I could ever do. Like I would never hang out with a person like him. Ever. Ever. But anyway, seeing his parents, thinking about the judge, thinking about politics, for me, it really started to click for me today.
And that makes a lot of sense because it's, I so there's this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie,
I
and
think I've heard of that.
it's a book that is popular in Big Brother fandom a little bit because a lot of players have like read that book and like they use it as kind of their blueprint for their games. And I don't think I don't necessarily know if Roddy read it, but one of the things in the book is that you kind of want to, you don't want to make when you're trying to go to someone with a favor or something, it's all about how can I influence you? How can I make what I need from you appeal to what your interests are? And I feel like Roddy is kind of uh, doing a similar thing of like, okay, what is the thing that matters to you the most? And I'm gonna kind of latch on to what that thing is. And for Amy, it's attention, and
It
so
is. It
he's
is.
he knows exactly what it is to give her to get what he wants.
He actually says something later on. I know that we're going to probably get into it, and I'll bring it up then. But he definitely says a couple of things later on that proves exactly what you're saying. And even in regards to Amy, even Danielle mentioned that to her later on as well. Like I see you, Amy. Like I know you want the attention. Like, and it's okay for you to want to be liked. And were Danielle's exact words to Amy. So I'm like, people obviously in the house can see it as well. So wow, in regards to Amy, but
Yeah,
wow. Mm-mm-mm.
absolutely. And the last thing that I'll say about this segment is that I do find it funny that Kiara is at home watching this, and after after Roddy said they were great friends,
Okay, let's see the reunion.
right? Right. So this is followed by a water polo segment where the house guests are doing guys girls water polo, and there's nothing here, but
No.
I did like that. When they're throwing the ball around, Lisa takes it and she just puts it in her bra, because Jason's trying to like get her, and so she just takes the ball and puts it there, and I was like, oh great, because yeah, no way in hell he's going there. So
Not Jason. No. What I liked about it was that Marcellas and Danielle completely set out. Because I
right.
was like
Yep.
this, like I'm not touching that. Like what the hell? I don't know what the hell you guys over there doing, but
It's been like 60 days and they're like, all right, we don't gotta
like
do that shit anymore.
at
don't gotta
all.
don't gotta try to relate to the youngins. So Hey, what is your favorite animated cartoon?
Who said
Because
that?
Marcellas's is Speed Racer.
Oh, he did say that. Oh, yeah. Wasn't it a question?
No, it was in the segment where he talks to himself,
Oh, okay,
which is next up.
okay. I don't know why I thought that was a question. In my mind, that played out as a question in a game. Oh my goodness, I don't know why that played out that. Yes. Oh yeah. And I wrote down what the hell is wrong with him because I did write down Marcellas talking to him this segment. Got it. Yeah, because he's laid on the couch and he had this whole ordeal of all of these different things. When he gets bored, he just talks because he's his favorite person to talk to, I think is what he said.
Yep. That's what he said.
Yeah. Oh my yeah. This is why that blew. Yeah, okay, I forgot.
So I take it you don't talk to yourself very much.
I do, and I love to talk to myself. However, if I knew that I was on national TV, that would never happen. Worst case, I would talk to the camera or talk to the audience, but I would never talk to myself on camera. You would never see it.
You see, if I was in the Big Brother house, that would be such a problem for me because I talk to myself all the time. I'm constantly in my head.
Like audibly?
Not audibly, but
Okay.
like you can tell when I'm talking to myself. Like my lips will move just a teeny bit, and like my eyes will start looking up, and it like you'll notice that the wheels are turning there. So it would be I would be so self-conscious the whole time to just like make sure that I wasn't in my head, just so that there aren't like 1,000 gifs of me just like looking up at the ceiling. They didn't have that in 2002.
They did not. Oh my goodness. You know what? But that would be so funny. That'd be like a picture of Marcellas, you, and Eric. Like who said it best? Like who? Like who did it? Oh, that'd be funny.
So,
poor Marcellas.
Right? Oh, he just keeps taking his lumps. So we then get a little bit of insight into Lisa as we learn that she knows sign language and has been practicing it for a bit of time now. So she's starting to get more fluent. She's starting to teach people the alphabet, and this would normally be a fluff segment, except for the fact that quickly we learn that Danielle and Lisa are using sign language to communicate with one another in the house and talk strategy. And
what is your thoughts on that? On them doing that?
So it's very clever.
It's very clever. It is so clever.
It is very clever. It is, I will say, so production told them to stop doing this.
Good.
They were like, yeah, no, you can't be having secret conversations that people can't understand in the house. And so, I think it's a good try. It's a good, I appreciate the attempt from Lisa at trying to come up with a strategy here, but it is, and it's got to be, especially the way they're doing it, like they're spelling out words. It has to take so much time just to get your message across. So she can't be that fluent.
Well, so Lisa is fluent in sign language.
But Danielle wasn't.
Danielle only knows the letters, and so. But I honestly, when they said that she was fluent in sign language, Lisa, I was like, I forgot she was a person. Like I forgot Lisa was a person else because she's so forgettable. She is so forgettable to me that I was just like, oh shit! Like I literally wrote that down. Like, oh shit, she is a real person. Like I forgot. So that made sense to me, and I was just like, okay, fine. But I thought it was rude. Like I think that is the rudest thing ever to just come on. Like, I think that for me, so I'm really glad to hear you say the production told them to stop, because we didn't see that piece. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I think production tries, they try to not be in the show as much as possible, so that's probably why we didn't see them do, have that conversation. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's considering they are two able-bodied human beings that don't need to be using sign language, I can see why they told them to stop. So
yeah, me too. I'm glad.
So another interesting thing that we get here is we find out that the house guests are told that the high rent district bedroom is closed for the rest of the summer. So that means that everyone has to pack up their stuff from the bedroom and move locations. And, by itself, I don't think that this is particularly interesting information here, but it did make me wonder whether or not this is something that they should do in modern Big Brother. Like this idea of, okay,
Closing.
get them closer
Mm.
as we're kind of dwindling down numbers here. And so, yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Because I
So
had some.
I never thought, honestly, I thought it was still going on. Let me rephrase. It never dawned on me. Honestly, it never registered to me. In my mind, I assumed that was actually still happening. Maybe not a big announcement that these rooms or these particular, that these particular rooms were closing, but I never paid it any attention. I never paid it any attention. And so whatever the editing has been since I began to watch the show, which are of course the later seasons, it has given me the illusion that they are making them be closer. They're making them interact more and making them do more things together. Versus this season, obviously, as they're dwindling down and you're having these rooms, smaller house, but you're having these rooms, people are now gone. Even the house guests themselves said, yeah, we used to use this room to, to relax or to get away from people. And I could imagine that production would not, that's the last thing you want in Big Brother. That is the last thing you want. So, but yeah, so my thoughts is that if they're not doing it now, I think they should.
Okay. Yeah, I started thinking about this because I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense in this season of Big Brother that we're watching, where it's a smaller house to begin with. So if you're just letting certain people kind of hide away, then you're not really like you're letting them kind of be conflict averse, I guess, if you're letting them kind of keep to their spaces of the house. And then I was starting to think about modern seasons of Big Brother, and I know that the HOH room towards the end of the season usually gets locked. I don't think once they get down to, I think, final four, I feel like it has been sealed off. Usually, I don't know that I don't necessarily know that doing that would make people like be closer together, because I feel like it's such a bigger house that it's like, okay, if this one bedroom is closed off, then people are still going to be able to find other places to be.
True. Because now they have the workout room, they have the
Hmm.
game rooms, and so yeah, you're right. It is a
Yeah.
much bigger house.
Yeah, so I don't know if it would be that effective, but I did think that that was an interesting kind of thought experiment to think of there. I still would really love it if they did a season where they got them back in this smaller house, because I don't know. There's just something about it. I feel like Big Brother gets a bit too theatrical sometimes and needs to kind of tone it down a
And
little bit.
go back to their roots.
Go back to their roots, don't forget where you come from.
Exactly.
So,
I agree. I'm in agreement, especially with the head of household and Julie private meeting, that conversation.
yeah.
So
Oh,
there's definitely
absolutely.
some things that they need to get back to.
Mhm. So then this leads into the food competition, and we got a scavenger hunt here.
Mm-hmm.
So the house guests have to go and find 7 medallions that have um, that have different days of the week on them, and if they find them all, they win food for the week. And the days that they don't find medallions for, they have to eat PB&J for that corresponding day. And so, they get it. They do what they set out to do. It's an interesting competition. I liked the idea of the pies, and I liked the ensuing food fight. It's fun to kind of see people get messy, see people having fun. I don't know.
I hate getting dirty. So
I
I
mean, I
hate
don't
getting
like it
dirty.
either, but I like watching other people get dirty.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
You know.
Got it.
And this leads into a situation where, in the midst of all this chaos, Amy loses a ring that she got from her grandmother when she was like 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's panicking, and everyone is trying to help her find it. And Danielle is the one to find it. But the whole time in the diary room, these people are like, this is an idiot. Like, why did you not take off the ring
Out of
before
all
you
of the
came in here?
competitions, because you typically would take off your ring, in their words, not mine, that you would typically
Mhm.
take off this ring before your competitions. Why would you not take it off now?
Right.
Just
Yeah. And yeah, yeah. But mistakes happen, and luckily Danielle finds it. So they go outside to wash off after this food fight, and of course, in the midst of this situation, Amy loses it once again. And, I don't know. This is kind of the start of Amy's downfall for the week, even though it doesn't lead anywhere.
yeah.
Thankfully for her, it's just kind of interesting to see how her level of maturity is so much less than all the other people in the house.
So you said something earlier during this
Mhm.
episode, and you're talking about how you like it's easy to forget that Amy, has it like she has not been here the whole time,
Right.
and
Yep.
so because it seems like she just has been part of the cast.
Mhm.
What's sad about that is because her nothing about her has changed. She has not evolved. She has not matured. Like
Mhm.
nothing about her has changed.
Right.
And so I'm like, it is easy to feel like she's just, like she's been there the whole time. And it's just this I feel sad for her is what I guess I'm trying to say. Like I
Yeah.
really feel sad for her. Like I wish she would grow up. And I know we all go through things as,
Right.
kids, you don't know any better. You do silly
Right.
things to kind of test the waters, but I feel so sorry for her. Just sad. Just sad.
Yeah. And I think we talked about it before about how, you know, she didn't have the benefit of going home after she was evicted and watching the tapes.
Yeah.
She got to
Yeah.
get drunk in Mexico, and so yeah, there was not much character growth happening there. And this is one situation where it's more apparent, like, just how long she's been gone, because it was so drama free for so long, and then you put her back in the house, and alongside everybody else. She's just really the outlier here. And I feel bad for her to a certain extent, but I think the more that we see her behavior this week, I'm just hoping she got help, because she goes through it and she exhibits some behavior that is very, very startling. But we're not there yet. So
Sorry.
strap in. So Danielle and Jason talk, and they're both concerned because they know the only way to get rid of Amy is for one of them to be on the block against her. And Danielle doesn't think that Marcellas is going to listen to her, and Jason actually suggests that they go to Marcellas and they say, hey, you have to do what we say, essentially, because you're not going to be HOH next week, and there's only going to be 5 people left in the house, so you don't want to piss off 3 of them. And Danielle doesn't want to do it. She doesn't want to push her luck here, and but Jason has to kind of convince her, like, hey, like, this is my butt that's on the block here. He is one thing I guess we did not mention is that in the midst of the stuff with Amy losing the ring, Marcellas is starting to get really annoyed. So he's very much considering putting her on the block. And so Jason is of the mindset that, well, if he was willing to turn on Amy, how long is it going to be before he turns on me? But I thought that was a very astute mindset from Jason there. I think it's kind of interesting that he's kind of the push that Danielle needs to go talk to Marcellas, because she is so often the one that's driving the car here that,
I was surprised at their approach. I was very surprised to hear Jason basically talking about threatening Marcellas, in regards to what to do in his HOH. I was very shocked to hear that from Jason, and I was equally shocked to hear from Danielle to say, I don't like threatening people. Like, literally is what she said. I don't like to threaten people. And so it just blew me. I legitimately had to write that down. It made me pause for a second to look at them as a duo again. And I'm just like, wait a second, what's really going on in those secret conversations between the two of you all? Like, what's going on there? Maybe there is a little bit more strategy from Jason. Like, maybe there is maybe there's a softer side of Danielle. Like, what's really going on here? So I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I do think we've seen I do think we've seen shades of it from Jason, where he's said specific things about being okay with lying to people, and them having this persona of him that is not necessarily who he is. And and I think you're right about Danielle, that we're seeing more of a softer side than we've been getting for the rest of the season. Even though with her too, I feel like we've seen her get emotional, and I do believe those emotions that it, as much as she is a strategy bot, I still think there are moments where she's able to kind of take a step back and not see these people just as numbers that she has to eliminate here. I think also that she may very well think that Marcellus is onto her, and if she pushes too much, that potentially, like, that will make him start to be more distrustful of her.
Okay.
Yep. So Danielle has that conversation with Marcellus, and Marcellus says in the DR that he still doesn't trust Danielle. Actually, I think he says this directly to her, that he doesn't know where her loyalties lie, so he feels a little bit wary of her. He feels that she is overextended and that he's going to prioritize people like Jason and Lisa over him, even though they have talked about going to the end together. And Danielle tells him, all I'm looking at is getting to the end. I don't care who I am with here. And so that is, that is really, I feel, about all that she can do, is try to be like, hey, I want to win this money for my family, but I don't care who I have to make the deals to. Just take me to the end already. So, but it seems to work a little bit as we get to the nominations here, and we get the nominations of Roddy and Amy. And I think that this really surprises people. It surely surprises Amy to some extent, especially when Marcellas really starts going in on her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, he puts her through the ringer. He basically tells her, you've had every opportunity to make things right with people. You've let those opportunities pass you by. And how did you take this nomination
So
speech?
I actually wrote down, oh my gosh, he needs to go after that, because it felt like a personal attack. It had nothing to do with the game. I think it didn't. I feel like what he was trying to say was, I don't like the way that you're playing the game. And I
Mhm.
think that there are more people here that want to be here, probably, better than you do,
Right,
greater than you. I feel like that's what he wanted to say.
right.
But all of that additional stuff that he said to her was a personal attack. And if you're going to do that as her friend,
Yeah,
that should have been a side conversation. It
yeah,
should not have been done at the nomination ceremony. Bad enough you nominated the damn girl. I agreed with the nomination next to Roddy. I agree with this. I would have much rather have seen Roddy and Danielle, but I agree with the nomination. Put it. Let's go. You have, whatever. Whoever either one goes home, it doesn't really matter. Like, fine, let's put him up here. Like, I'm okay with that. But everything else that he said to her was ridiculous. Even the shit that he said to Roddy, and shit, Roddy is the devil. Like, it was just, people in the house don't trust you, and so I'm like, it was softer to Roddy
yeah.
versus Amy, and I'm like, Amy is your friend, so I was not happy with Marcellus with that. It should not have been done.
Yeah, me either. I thought that it I don't like this idea that, like, by putting her up, he's like doing something so noble. Like, I am using this as a punishment for you. It's like putting your child in the timeout chair,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, uh, I'm not saying people enjoy going up on the nomination block, but don't treat it like a slap on the hand. Don't treat it like a timeout. You're not doing anything noble by making this choice. I agree with you in what he was probably trying to say, but just like you said, I think that this should have been private a private conversation, because also, and I know he's not thinking about it from a strategy point, but people walk away from this conversation feeling sorry for Amy.
They
Like,
did.
this could seriously
Mm-hmm.
take things in a way that you don't want them to, because he doesn't want Amy to go. He still wants Roddy to go.
Like,
So why are you giving people ammunition? Like, it makes no sense.
0 cents. I was about to say that. I could have said fast enough. It makes 0 cents.
Mhm.
0 cents. Yeah, zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not happy with Marcellus. Not happy with him. Not happy.
Yeah. So that is how we end episode 24, and we open with episode 25, where we get a DR from Roddy, who is reflecting on this nomination ceremony and the words that Marcellas had for Amy, and he says, "Unnecessary is not a strong enough word. It was selfish to hurt somebody for no reason."
Yep.
Then we get Danielle chiming in the DR, where she says, Amy's Amy, and you have to have patience for someone like that. And she's right, and she goes to Marcellus to be like, hey, I agree with what you said. I think you spoke well, but you gotta tell Amy that, like, you're sorry and you love her, because that just was not the way to handle that situation there. Then we find Amy where we left her, at the nomination table,
at the table.
at the kitchen table, where she's just like in a coma-like state. She's just probably talking to herself, just looking out into space. And
I'm like editing. I hated editing for this piece because it's just, as you pick up with this episode and you see this empty table with just Amy, and it's just, man, oh my gosh, it makes you feel so sorry. But I'm sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, you do, and it's the most speechless I think she's been this entire season.
I would agree. I agree. But yeah.
So we have Lisa, who's still in the kitchen, just trying to clean up, and she tries to console Amy. Amy's like, I didn't expect that, and there's not too much that Lisa can do, but I think Amy appreciated the shoulder to cry on. So we get a conversation. So with Danielle and Marcellus, they are still in the backyard. Roddy comes out, and Marcellus tells him that he's sorry, but the perception is that he's not playing the game honestly, and everybody feels that way. And, Roddy, being Roddy, he is like, well, how could you feel that way? Like who's saying this stuff? And so he looks at Danielle, and he's like, okay, do you feel this way? And she's like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And he says, well, you should have told me. And she says, I did. And it just turns into this game of he said, she said, where he's really kind of trying to be a little bit intimidating, a little bit manipulative there. And there's a lot of back and forth between Roddy and Marcellus. He calls the house a nest of vipers and jackals, which is an interesting analogy there. And
he called them something else too, and I forgot to write it down because Danielle repeats it later on. But he definitely said nest of vipers, and it was one more name that he called them. If it comes to me, I'll say it. But I will say I found that this is the piece that I was talking about, because during this conversation when he first started, he was pushing back to Marcellus. It was just like, what did I do? But what did I do? What did I do? And so I even think it was Danielle that pointed out that you had people to do your bidding for you.
Yep.
And so I think that this style of play is what's interesting, because realistically, he didn't do anything. He just more so charmed you, as you stated earlier, to convince you to kind of do what you already want to do. And it just so happens to benefit him as well. And he kind of gives you that extra nudge that you need. And so, and his charm really, really works. And then you think that, you're really, really doing something. And so I think I found that conversation to be very interesting, because for a moment I was really confused. I was like, wait a second. Like, I had to go back and process, what did he really do? Like, who did he really target? Who did he really go after? Like, what was his strategic plan? Like, what was it that he actually did? And so I'm just like, I couldn't find anything. Tell me if I'm wrong.
You know, there's that thing that Danielle points to later in the episode, but other than that, I think you're right. And a lot of that is that he's able to manipulate people into making decisions that benefit him. And I think in trying to pressure Marcellas to like come with the receipts, like if Marcellas doesn't have any receipts and he knows that, he's gonna start to question himself and think like, oh, did I misjudge Roddy? And like, am I the drama?
Am I the villain? Exactly. I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, even like literally during the end of this, at the end of this conversation, he apologized. Like Marcellas apologized.
Oh, there's a moment we'll get to that it was kind of the nail on the coffin for me in terms of really siding with Danielle here.
Okay.
But we'll get to it. So they leave, and Amy comes out to sit next to Danielle, and she's crying. Danielle's consoling her. She tells Amy to talk to Marcellas, and so Amy goes in to do that. And I wrote basically that there's nothing to see here. This is exactly what we've seen 1,000 times before. They're just going through the same script, and yeah, there no change in, I think, how they feel about each other there. So
Agree.
Marcellas and Danielle talk afterward about Roddy and what a hypocrite he is and how good he is with his words, and so they're really crafting kind of that image of this guy that is just very charismatic. And we get this segment where we have the house guests talking about how so much more personable Roddy has become since Kiara left the house. And I thought it was interesting because I do think like I feel like obviously anytime you get in a showmance, then yeah, you're gonna be spending all your time with the showmance, and people are gonna be like, all right, well, those two are together and we don't really know how we feel about this guy. And it's also interesting because I don't feel like Roddy is the type of person to isolate himself from people. I think he likes people. I think he likes being around people and relating to them. So it's interesting that this is the week where people are feeling like he's even more personable than I feel he's been the entire summer. I feel like this isn't new to me, so it was kind of interesting that was kind of the perception of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So then Roddy and Marcellas have a follow-up conversation, and Marcellas tells him that everyone's wanted to put him up for weeks, and if I didn't do that, then it would look suspicious because of how people think Roddy has worked under the table with people. And Roddy tells him that he was surprised because Marcellas agreed a few weeks ago that he would never put him up, and Marcellas says that deal was never cemented for him. I think it was very cemented for him in the moment.
Absolutely. I cracked up at that whole little segment there was scene between the two of them because I'm like, they're playing basketball, and I'm just like, obviously Marcellas is trying to be a little bit more personal
Yeah.
trying to get closer to Roddy physically in his space, and Roddy is just backing away, and I'm cracking up because I'm just like, this is not what you were doing in the hot tub. Like this was not the hot tub scene that we saw. And so yeah, this cracked me up. Like this was amusing. But I love that Marcellas is just like, yep, no, that was not cemented. Nope. I know you heard me say yeah, but no.
Right. Oh, yeah. Here he was like literally like just puppy dog eyes at him a few weeks ago, and now he's trying to act like he's so disinterested because he knows the game that Roddy is playing, so he's kind of like, oh, well, maybe if I act like I'm disinterested, if I play hard to get here, then Roddy will. I don't even know what he's trying to do here, but I think he's trying to save some face.
Okay.
I think that's the big thing that Marcellas is trying to do here. But yeah, it was very, very, very funny, especially in a season where it's like, okay, if you tell someone that you're going to do something, like they always expect you to do it. So to say that the deal was never cemented for you, then okay, you lied to him.
You lied.
And he knows that.
Yeah.
So.
Now Marcellas did say, which I thought was his point, but Marcellas did say, I don't want people thinking that I had a deal with you.
Right.
He said that before he walked away. He's like, I don't want people thinking that I had it, which would honestly be smart. You don't want people thinking that, especially if everybody else is calling him the devil. So, yeah, I think that piece is smart to me. I don't know if that's what he was actually doing, but, hopefully so.
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was in so deep with Roddy at this point that, the backtracking wasn't going to work. So,
yeah.
But, I mean, it doesn't matter because Marcellas is HOH, so who cares?
Like, who cares this week? And you're on the block, so you really can't do anything. So it doesn't matter.
So then we get a conversation with Danielle and Amy where we learn that Marcellas's plans might be in trouble here because Amy reminds Danielle that Amy made a deal with Roddy during the box veto POV where she told Roddy that she would save him if he was on the block and she won the power of veto. And so this puts Danielle, Marcellas, and Jason in a panic because they're like, okay, well, if she made this deal, like she's saying she's gonna stick to it, like she has to stick to it. So this kind of messes up our plans here.
So why do I feel like this is editing? Because do you really remember making that deal? All those weeks ago. Like, do you really? And are you really going to be dumb enough to honor it? And you on the block with him? Like none of this makes sense. Like you've been in Mexico. Like you did not remember that you made this deal with him. I don't know where this came from. I feel like it was brought up for the sake of drama, to give them something to do. At least that's my thoughts. Because I just don't believe it. I don't buy it. Not that it was real.
Yeah, I feel like from what I am seeing here, it does feel like Amy was the one to remember that she made the deal. I think her biggest mistake here is that she starts telling people about it, because then like it circulates through the house. And I mean, there's even a point where she's literally telling Roddy, like, hey, remember when I made this deal with you? He probably didn't.
You have been in Mexico. Like no one was thinking about you in this deal. Like, but I agree with you. You're right. The worst mistake that she could have done with this is start to tell people about it. You're right. I didn't even think about that piece, but you're right. That is the worst thing she could have done. but
Yeah,
she's playing an emotional game.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, he's flirting with her the entire week, so she feels like she owes him
Mm-hmm.
something here. But, I obviously, yeah, this would be a terrible, terrible choice to make. And, so Roddy and Amy end up having a conversation where Amy tells him, like, hey, I will do this. If I win the POV, I will take you down. And this is where Roddy says the dumbest thing that he could have possibly said.
Can you say that one more time? Like the dumbest thing.
The dumbest thing. He has been fined this entire game. He has got the gift of gab. He is very charismatic. He knows how to get people on his side. This is not how you do that.
Mm-hmm.
He tells her, "That's great. Thank you so much for taking me down if you win the power of veto." And then when Amy says, "So, like, if Lisa goes up against me, you'll still vote to keep me, right?" And he's like, "Well, actually, dumbass."
Just dumb. I gave my word to her that I wouldn't vote her out or something. Is that what was that what his thing was? He wouldn't vote
Yeah,
out Lisa.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
something like that. Like, because of the Eric connection, I think.
Like boy, yeah, dumb, just stupid. Like, cause that's one. Like I hate to lie. Like that is a pet peeve of mine, and I'm one of those people that probably would have did my best to play an honest game as much as possible. But in this situation, I would have definitely led her to believe that I would not. You know what I mean? Like she would have my vote.
Right.
I would have. We would have gone. Yep. Take me off the block.
And this is why I don't like when people come into Big Brother wanting to play an honest game, because it's like this is the exact scenario you're gonna find yourself in,
Step in.
where that
Mm-hmm.
philosophy is gonna bite you in the ass.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Honestly,
So
he could have done it a little differently. And if I were in the moment, I probably would have found a very clever way to get around it so that
right,
it wasn't overtly a lie, you know? Like
right.
even if I had to say something stupid, like, yeah, I said yes, but in my mind
It wasn't cemented for
it
me.
wasn't cemented. Yes, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. We didn't shake on it.
Uh yeah.
Man, I'm like these people, like just stupid. So at this point, I'm just like Roddy, like okay, you're just stupid. You're stupid.
Yeah, yeah, he is. So, thankfully, this gets Amy to wake up and she realizes that he played her like a fiddle. And
Mm-hmm.
this is not great for Roddy going into this POV competition. But before that happens, Roddy and Danielle have a conversation where Roddy tells her that he screwed himself by giving people the benefit of the doubt and thinking that their word meant something. And this is just Roddy trying to lay on the guilt trip here, but he is doing it to the wrong
Wrong one.
person.
Wrong one. Because Danielle picked up on you a long time ago.
Hmm.
Mm, yeah.
So Danielle asks him if Marcellas told him to his face that he wouldn't put him up. And this is where Roddy says the second dumbest thing that he could have said this week. When he says, "Yes, we made a deal about a couple of weeks ago, and Marcellus said he would never put me up if he won HOH." And this makes Danielle realize that Roddy had lied to Jason last week when Roddy said the only one he had to deal with was Danielle.
Mm-hmm. 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 And and I guess she would say it to try to make Marcellus lose credibility,
Yeah.
or her trust in him. But I don't know what you're going to gain from this. You're on the block next to Amy. I just I don't know what I don't understand his thinking. And maybe this could have been his Hail Mary to try to get her. But even then, he really wasn't. And I guess it's the charm thing that we talked about earlier, because he didn't ask her to do anything, other than if he was safe this week, would you have my back next week? As I think is what he said, and she
Right.
agreed and then said she lied. So other than that, he really didn't ask her to do anything. Like, he really didn't. So, like, what was your real purpose of telling her all of this about Marcellus? Like, what was the purpose?
Yeah, exactly. And it's it's like Marcellus is HOH, so it's not like she's gonna go into the HOH room and like call him out on it,
Like,
because like if she does that, then Marcellus is gonna know who that information came from, and I mean that could be potentially why he said that, but you really have to be banking on her not wanting to go in and double check that information,
mm,
because she could use that information against you. Like, hey, he told me this thing,
mm,
so
but she never did. She never did go
no,
back to ask Marcellus. So I don't think she cares.
no,
And I'm
she doesn't.
probably with her. Like move on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done talking to the devil.
So Roddy has got two people that are really not on his side going into this competition. Not that Danielle was on his side before this, but this kind of cements that. And so going into this POV competition, we have the house guests wearing graduation gowns, and they have a swim cap on their heads, and there is this obstacle course in the backyard, and they have to walk the course with a veto card on their heads, and if the veto card drops or they touch it, they get a 15-second penalty, and the person who does the course in the fastest time wins, and the two fastest time earners get a 30-minute massage. And so I didn't really understand why they had to wear graduation gowns.
It was
It was a
charmful.
graduation theme, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but I don't understand the gowns either. That make no sense because you could have done it without it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because most of them immediately take it off when they go to
To go, yeah.
do the
When they were
course.
actually doing the course, yeah.
Yeah. So, there wasn't anything super exciting about this competition other than our winner, Amy, who it was pretty much, I think, guaranteed from the moment she stepped up there that she was gonna win. She talks about, being a pageant girl,
Mm-hmm.
and like,
Mm-hmm.
I've done the thing with the book on my head and walking around, and so she was going to be a lock for this competition. Um, Interestingly, Jason comes in second place here,
There.
and so he is just as coordinated as Amy. Congratulations to him. He should have won the Mr. Big Brother 3 pageant.
Oh my gosh.
But what he does win is an aqua massage.
Yes. Yes.
I thought this was kind of cool. Like,
Yeah, yeah, they are. Like, even in the show, it's cool too. But we
yeah,
used to have one in a couple of the malls here, and I'm like, they are actually really neat. So I like that he was kind of scared and didn't want anybody touching him, and all that little segment about being afraid to have the massage. But I was just like the water and like I said, the aqua massage. Like, it was pretty cool, and to kind of see them and go through their moment, and it was pretty neat. That was neat.
yeah. This automatically made me want an aqua massage. I was just like, I remember I used to go to the mall all the time, and they would have the massage chairs that you could
Mm-hmm.
sit in while, your mom's shopping or
Yeah.
whatever. And, I always loved that. So I think I would really enjoy the aqua massage. I'm kind of on the side of Jason that I don't really want a regular massage. I don't want any stranger
Like
touching me
touching.
like that. I've gone to the physical therapist and gotten like a neck massage, which hasn't
Mm.
been too bad, but you know,
I love them. We actually have like it's I think it's like a therapeutic healing massage is what we normally do, but we're regulars, so you gotta to get the same person, your
right.
favorite people. But I
Yeah.
definitely, no. I don't mind. I don't like knock me out, put me to sleep. Like I'm ready. I've had a hard day. Damn it.
Yeah. I yeah, no, yeah, and I still deal with neck issues, so I could definitely go for one. So maybe one day.
One day.
Maybe one day. So Danielle and Jason talk about the results of the competition,
Yes.
and they both agree that it would be shitty for Roddy to expect Amy to fall on the sword for him. So they don't think that it is going to happen, but of course they don't know Roddy. But but before before we get that conversation, we get an America's Choice, and America was asked this week, what would you like the house guests to shop for? And of course, the house guests get a shopping spree, and so this leads into a segment where they have like all these clothes on a rack in the living room, and they have about 60 seconds to get as many clothes as they possibly can carry. And so you just have people like throwing shirts over their head and just trying to grab things off the rack. You've got Lisa getting the dress that Amy really wanted. And so
She did say something funny about that. She was just like, she's probably going to put me on the block or send me home for stealing a dress.
yeah, probably
Probably so.
teach her a lesson.
Yeah.
So that leads into the conversation that we get with Amy and Roddy before the meeting, where Amy basically says, "Hey, I can't take you off the block. You couldn't guarantee me a vote, and so there's no way that I can put my game in jeopardy for yours." And he really lays on the guilt here, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, Amy, like, you made a deal, and like, this is very upsetting, and the whole reason that you and I are on the block is because Marcellas lacks integrity, and like, now you want to do the same thing to me? Like, this isn't the Amy I know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just I don't get the thinking here of like, really, you expected her to fall on the sword for you?
For you?
You thought that she came back into the game and like, she had to sign a contract saying, I'll give up this amount of money, of this amount of the prize money. Like, she wanted to get back in here, and you think that she would waste 3 months of her life just to save you? Like, it's ridiculous. It's a
It's
ridiculous argument that he's making. Like, a small little deal here does not negate the fact that, like, you all signed up to play this game, and you can't just expect people to lay down and die for you.
Say it again. Yes, sir. Like, and I think he's probably shocked at himself that
Yeah,
his charm is not working as
working.
quickly. That he, is so I think that's his issue with this, which is why he's starting to lash out. And
Right.
so, like, not here, but his next conversation with her is when I was just done with Roddy. And I know we'll get there in a second,
Yeah.
but he's starting to play the effects of that now. And so
Yeah.
I don't like Roddy, you were wrong. You were definitely wrong for this one. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, we can get right into it because I mean, at the meeting, Amy keeps everything the same, doesn't use
Mm-hmm.
it on Roddy. He's pissed and
Very, very.
very pissed.
Oh yes.
And,
Whew.
Amy apologizes to him and is like, this isn't easy for me. Like, this wasn't the easy choice. And
Mm-hmm.
Roddy tells her, I kind of feel like you've taken the easy way out this entire game. Like, it's a lot harder to do the right thing, and you just decided to take the easy way out. And there's so much gaslighting going on
So
here. Like, holy smokes, there's a lot of smoke here.
because it is, and he is laying on her, and don't get me wrong, what Marcella said, it hurt and it affected me as a friend. I
Right.
assume that Roddy and whatever you guys are doing, and I understand you got your charm on her, and you probably don't believe it, but you have her believing it. So
Yep.
she's believing you to be a friend, and this is how you lay into her. They're talking about her integrity, and she obviously doesn't have any. And then she's telling, like, Amy is saying, like, this is hard for me. Like, this is frustrating for me. You don't know what it's like. And your argument to her is give me reasons, give me the points, prove to me. Come on. Like that is such a douchebag thing to do. And so I completely lost respect for him 100% after this. I was just like, at this point, you need to go. Like, you need to go. And I'm hoping that the house agrees with me. Like,
Yeah.
this is it for me.
He's playing on her insecurity
Yep.
because
That's
the
what it is.
yeah, because the one thing that Amy really needs is validation, and she needs acceptance. She needs people to feel good about her, and he knows that, and is he's using that against her. He's being like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, Amy, you made a bad decision. You
Mm-hmm.
are a selfish person. You always take the easy way out." Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's really making her feel the lowest that she's probably felt this entire
Entire.
game, and
Mm-hmm.
it brings me back to so I've been watching Deal or No Deal Island this season.
Oh
It
Lord. Oh Lord. It
it
caught my
is
attention. It caught my attention.
so there is this there's a survivor player, and there is this younger guy that were working together, and he had opened up to this survivor player who was very cutthroat and was talking about like growing up and feeling like he could never accept himself, and like he was always getting bullied in school, and how he had to learn to love himself. And there was this Big Brother player actually that was also on Deal or No Deal Island that is a very kind of in your face manipulative type of player. And this survivor player tells this guy like she saw him getting close to this Big Brother player, and she didn't like that, so she was like, that person, doesn't he kind of remind you of the people that used to bully you when you were a kid?
Oh wow.
He's just trying to get
Wow.
you to like him, and then he's gonna tear you down, and I don't want that to happen to you. And so it's a very similar thing of playing on people's
Wow.
insecurities. And yeah, this and I think you were spot on with Roddy realizes that he's slowly losing power, and it's that thing kind of like in superhero movies where you have the antagonist that is slowly
Mm-hmm.
starting to lose
Losing.
and realizes
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
then
And
they
they try to
start
throw in
lashing
this
out
Hail
and
Mary. Uh-huh.
yep,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's very, very similar.
Yeah. But I'm like, said our words were meaningless. And like, he just, oh, wow. And then kissed her on the damn forehead
And told
before
her
he
he loved her.
just,
Like,
my goodness.
this is textbook, like, narcissist behavior, abuser behavior, where,
100. Yeah.
you know, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't got to get too deep
I'm
into that,
sorry.
but
Go
oh
ahead.
my
I'm
God.
sorry. Yeah, it pissed me off. It
Yeah,
pissed me off. I have no respect for him. I definitely want him gone. And
yeah,
because again, like you said, I think he was, determining that he was losing, and he couldn't
yep,
do it. And okay, I just got to say this.
okay,
Back to what I said earlier. She decided already to not use the power of veto.
yep,
You having this conversation with her and belittling her, what is it going to do? What is it possibly going to do? What?
right. Right. I think it's literally he just wants to tear down the person that he feels is responsible for this, which I mean, that person is really Marcellas.
Yeah,
But
yeah. For putting on like
but
this, like,
Amy's an easy target, and so he's
yeah.
just taking his anger out on her.
You're right. You're right. You're right. But I literally wrote down, I was like, she is a baby. And I was like, you're doing this to her?
Yeah.
Like, because
And
she's a baby. She doesn't know any better.
yeah.
Oh.
And and I so one more thing about this specific thing. Um, he exhibited very similar behavior the week that he was on the block with Josh and was also kind of doing a similar manipulation thing because by the end of that week, like Josh feels really, really bad
Yeah,
that
he
they
did.
were in this situation and he feels kind of responsible and like, oh, Roddy doesn't deserve this. And so we have seen shades of it before. I think it's just more apparent now that things are really tumbling fast for him.
Damn. Mm-mm-mm. Well,
So that is how we end the veto episode, and we open with the eviction night episode where Danielle is in the DR and says, "It seems like everyone who goes up against Roddy ends up being the sacrificial lamb." And we then get a conversation between Marcellas and Danielle where they are again talking about how Roddy reels you in to do his dirty work for him. He's very, very charismatic.
very.
But of course, Amy is still bugging everyone. She is really going hard with that alcohol. She's literally bartering with Roddy for more alcohol, and they only get a certain amount of alcohol per week. And, so yeah, so people are getting very frustrated with her, and this kind of leads Marcellus to talk about how there's always something that happens with whoever is against Roddy that makes them want to vote the other person out more. And, that is just what is kind of happening here with Amy a little bit, or starting to happen a little bit here. And so we could be in some dangerous territory. And Marcellus also makes an interesting point about how the House kind of has a need to vilify the person that's on the block every single week to justify voting them out. And I
I
thought
didn't hear
that
him. I didn't know he said that.
he did say that in I feel like he was talking to Danielle still in that
Mm-hmm.
moment. So I thought that was a very interesting insight. It is what happens a lot on Big Brother. You just rarely have anybody calling it out,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're one of the people that's on the outs.
And I can see that bigger thing because realistically, these are people. You
Yeah.
are a person. You've built relationships with them, whether good or bad or whatever. I can see that. And you having to kind of what we just said a moment ago, and
Mhm.
trying to justify what you're doing. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I guess I haven't picked up on that yet with them vilifying the people on the block. That is sad. You already got them on the block. Like you have a 50-50 shot of going home.
Yeah.
Why do I need to make your week even worse?
Yeah, yeah, but you see it a lot. A lot of people talk about how once you're on the block, it feels like there's a bit of ostracization
Mm.
going on, and people not wanting to talk about, or people not wanting to talk with you a bunch. I know in Big Brother 21 that was the case, and there was this girl on Big Brother 21 named Nicole who kind of recognized that this was happening.
Oh, the Fruit Loop Dingus.
No, no. That's Big Brother 16 with Nicole Franzel.
Okay.
The that's nasally Nicole.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
No,
Okay. I'm
this
sorry.
is the
Got
redhead Nicole.
it. Okay, so I don't think I can't think of her face right now. But okay, okay, okay.
So, essentially, every single week, she would make sure to like be hanging around that person and just make sure they felt like
Still a
they
part of the
still
game.
had somebody in the house there. So
Mm.
that but that is very much not the norm.
Yeah, yeah. Well, honestly, so going back to Amy, this one here would have been justified for me. Because
Mhm.
if seeing her falling out and just or falling out of the hammock, and you're bartering for, you're begging for the alcohol from your other teammates. You have even people like Jason, like, just give it, because he doesn't obviously know how to handle an
Right.
adult situation like that.
Yeah.
And so in his mindset, it's like, don't rock the boat, just give it to
Just give
her.
it to her. Yeah.
Just give it to her. And then you have somebody like Marcellas, like, no, take your ass to bed. Like, you need to go to sleep and sleep this off. You need to hear yourself right now, see yourself right now. It is not a good look. And so I'm just like, this is a scary thing in real life. And so,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm just like, you're doing this for the cameras to see. And this one, I would feel that it would be justified if she was isolated, because
Yeah.
this kind of behavior cannot be accepted. It cannot be accepted.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. This is the time where it's okay to kind of punish her and kind of be like, all right, you're on timeout here.
Like,
Because
yeah,
just in the sense too, like, they're playing a game and everything, but like people also want to have fun.
yeah,
This is a cool experience. You don't want someone ruining it for everybody else, so it's kind of better to kind of try to keep her in check a little bit there.
no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, this was one of the moments where I was like, I really hope now that she's okay, because it really feels like she's got a bit of a. I don't want to diagnose anybody, but it seems like alcohol might be a little bit of an issue for her.
Hmm. And I'm like, I would assume, as much as you've had,
Hmm.
you know your tolerance.
Yeah,
Okay, like, you know your tolerance as much as you have had at this
right.
point, because this, you're on camera now, so this could not have been the first time you've done this, and I'm pretty sure you probably have done more worse things outside of the house. So you have to know your limit
Yeah,
to purposely move forward with
yeah.
this. There is a deeper issue. Yeah, you're right. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. It's just a touchy subject for me. So I'm sorry. I did
That's
not
right.
mean it. I did not mean to bring that back up. So I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. We find out that basically, since Roddy has kind of started pulling back from Amy, he was like, all right, clearly nothing that I was doing with Amy worked. I gotta shift gears here.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts to set his sights on Lisa and just doing the same act.
Yeah.
And but Lisa's getting wise to it. He didn't say hi to her, so she is not falling for him just yet.
You did not have to go there.
He didn't say hi, and he didn't touch that belly button.
You did not have to go there. I forgot all about that damn crazy girl. I forgot about her. I forgot about that. She had someone else that said hi to her, so she's satisfied.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that was so mean.
But interestingly enough, she does call out that Roddy might be better for her game to keep him in, because if he's there, his two biggest targets are going to be Danielle and Marcellas, and she is going to be someone that is kind of on the sidelines there. She really hasn't been talked about too much since the week that Gerry was HOH when she was on the block with Eric, and so I think that if she had been able to pull it off, that would have only helped her in
Yes.
the game here.
Because Roddy has no one.
Yep.
Jason and Danielle, the relationship between the two of them are starting to be more apparent to the house, I think.
Yep.
Everyone already knows about Marcellas and Amy. So had she been able to pull that off, I agree with you. She would have been able to probably change the course of the show, of the game for this season. Like she would have been able to do that. But I don't think Jason or Danielle would have been on her side to keep him. And so, she would have lost there, but it would have. And I don't understand why. I understand him putting his charm on Lisa now, but your charm should have been on all of the three people that have to vote. That's where it really should have been. So, I just found it odd that he is waiting until now to do so.
Yeah, I agree. He was able to work the Jason angle last week, and so he could have kept up with that this week, and just for some reason decided not to do that. With Danielle, it's a little bit easier. I think that the type of gameplay that Roddy kind of employs works on a certain type of person that Danielle does not quite fit that bill. So
at all.
So basically, then we go live to the studio with Miss Julie Chen, and she talks with the house guests. She starts off by complimenting Jason's hair. He's got a little new do here, and she says that it makes him look like Greg Brady, which fair assessment there. I don't know that I like the look, but
I don't like it.
Yeah, he's got that nice little kind of Hawaiian shirt looking thing, and so he's definitely serving the peace and love of the Brady Bunch there. So she then asks Marcellus about his speech and what the message Amy was supposed to take away from it was, and he says that it was essentially a plea to Amy to just be a little more careful with everyone because everyone's really fragile. There's a lot of stress here, and we all love each other, and we don't want to take anything for granted. And Julie follows that up by asking Amy whether or not she received the message, and Amy says, yeah, I got most of it. It took me a while. I had to sit and think about it. I think it was very harsh. It was a bloodbath. It was very hurtful. And, I understand the emotion behind it, but it was kind of harsh there.
And it seemed like she was still hurt by it. And I'm really glad that we saw that live. And that wasn't just one of those situations where, we kissed and make up and we're done. And so I'm really, because that was a brutal speech to her.
Yep.
So, So I'm glad to see that.
Yeah. they're learning what's being shown on the show, and but to your point, yeah, I think that she was still pretty hurt by it, so it's good
Yeah.
that she didn't try to lie there. Then Julie asks Danielle, she's like, Danielle, you're the only house guest who hasn't won HOH. How
Which,
bad do you want it?
which I didn't even know. Like, it didn't even dawn on me that she hadn't.
Yeah, well, she's very competitive. She's very competitive with every single challenge. She's won, food competitions. She did win that box veto, but like
That
that's
was
the
not.
only one that she's won. So yes, it does feel like she should have been HOH already because she's trying and
Yeah.
and but
Oh my gosh. She is trying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, she's like a hamster in a wheel trying to get that cheese.
She's trying her best. Like, bless her heart.
Yeah. So then Julie ends the segment by asking Lisa who had the best strategy during the shopping spree. And she says, I think the guys had the best strategy. They're all the same size, so they could just throw anything over their heads. And I agree. They
Yeah.
they seem to they seem to not care what it is that they were grabbing, whereas the women were
Trying to be
you
a
know
little bit. Mm-hmm.
gonna
Mm-hmm.
be a little bit more choosy there. So they definitely had an advantage in that competition. So we go to the first vote. We don't get any of the votes really cast here because of the fact that it ends up being unanimous. But we have Danielle saying, Amy loves to be the center of attention. She's a sex kitten that drives me nuts. You either got it or you don't. And when you have to act that hard to be sexy, sorry, girlfriend, you ain't got it. She then says, I caught Roddy in several lies. I am not convinced that Roddy would back me up. He can influence too many people. He is the devil. He is Lucifer. He's Satan. He must go.
Oh my goodness.
So, one thing I wanted to touch on, because I don't think I had this in my notes, but
Okay.
at this point in the week, we get a lot of DRs from Danielle where she is really hammering it home that Roddy is the devil here. Like,
Yes.
a
Yes. More than normal.
lot
A lot.
more than normal.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any thoughts about that?
No, I understood why. And again, because of his charm and the fact that
Yeah,
his charm works. I understood why. I definitely understood why. And I definitely think from a religious perspective, you're probably doing too much. You
right.
guys are playing a game. And so hammering on the devil, Lucifer, Satan, consistently calling this man that I think that's a little too much. I think she
Yeah,
went a little too far with it. But I understand it. I get it. And I'm not even mad at her, for doing it. I'm really not. I'm really not. Because it has validity to it because when that charm is on, like, I mean, even Marcellas said
done.
it earlier. Earlier, he was just like, when he was talking to Danielle and was talking about the hot tub scene and was just like, I don't even know what I was agreeing to. And, I love you. Like, I love you. And I was
Right.
like, so when that charm is on, yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, this was I did think about whether or not it was a bit too far because Roddy takes himself very seriously. So I was kind of like, all right, how's he gonna take that? And
Mm.
and I knew
You mean
kind
like
of
on playback?
yeah on a
Mm-hmm.
playback because
Mm-hmm.
you know like I mean the guy is an atheist, but he is
Oh,
also a
is
good
he?
yeah.
I
Hmm.
didn't know that. Okay, okay. I'm sorry, listening.
Yeah, he says he's an atheist, so like he shouldn't care too much, but at the same time, he's a guy that thinks really, really highly of himself.
Mhm.
And, I had remembered from my original watch of the season that like Danielle's thing was that, I remembered the Roddy Devil comment. I just didn't realize how much she
How
said it, and especially this week how much she said it, that I didn't know if she was laying it on a little
Yeah.
too thick there. But I do agree with her that, like, I think it's a fair assessment. Like, it's a joke, and it's based off the fact that, like, yeah, this dude, like, he talks to you and you sell your soul to him. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Male or female, like he has, he doesn't care.
yeah,
He would charm you like completely. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. So we come back from commercial break to the HOH interview, and Julie asks Marcellas, Amy's been your best friend in the house since early on, but in the past few days, it seems that you've reached new heights in your frustration with her. What's the status of your friendship? And he basically says, like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And, when you look at the other people in the house and how we treat each other and how we are, there's one thing that sticks out more than any other. And I've told her, I've counseled her, I've loved her. I love her and I will love her beyond this game. And, then Julie asks him if he regrets winning head of household this week, and Marcella says, it was a really, really difficult head of household. It wasn't one that I really wanted. Damn my competitive streak. But he says it was worth it for the leather and the pictures.
He is so dramatic.
Eh, yes, he is. He is. So that there wasn't too much that interested me here, but I did find it interesting that he says he wants Danielle
To
to win the
win,
next HOH.
yes. I was
Yeah,
like, do you really know what you're saying?
right?
Because
What you're asking for.
do you? Because you and Amy are going to be back on the block,
Yep.
or you and Lisa, one of the two, like most likely Amy, are going to be back on the block quick. So
Right.
without hesitation. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, that was shocking to me. And I just wrote down, say what, like, like what, like what are you saying?
Yeah. Then, so that's how we finish the segment, and then we go into Jason's vote, where he says, I think this week we saw a little bit of the old Amy. Amy tends to make things a little bigger than they need to be. Amy is a little dramatic, and the drama tends to wear on people in the house. Then he says, Roddy is my friend, and aside from any of the other things in this house, I just love having him here because he's a friend. He's someone who I can talk to, who I can relate with, who I have a lot that I have learned from. I think that Roddy deserves to be here. I think Roddy should stay because he has played this game very well. So
Okay.
the one thing that I don't like about this particular format is them, like, having to find
Nice
reasons why they
things.
may keep people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because essentially you're asking them to lie and
Or at least only notice the good qualities
good
about this person
qualities.
and say
Yeah,
them out loud right now. And so
yeah,
yeah, it's unnecessary. It is completely unnecessary. Let them say whatever they're going to say,
yeah,
and just let it. If you want to hold the vote, then don't show the confession or don't show that particular, that diary clip.
right.
So
Yeah. So we come back from commercial break to the interview with the nominees, and Julie starts by asking Roddy if he agrees with Amy's decision not to use the power of veto. And Roddy says Amy can do what she wants, but Amy made a deal with me in front of the whole house to use the power of veto if she had the opportunity, and she had the opportunity, and she passed up on it. So I don't agree with it, but she can do what she wants.
you've had time to think about your decisions and how you
Yeah,
treated this girl, and you
yeah.
still get to the
Still,
live, and you when I say like Roddy, I'm hoping that he looks back on this and just like, oh my god, like that was really mean, and I'm hoping that he's apologized to her, to Amy, because this was completely unnecessary. You're still trying to manipulate her. Still, it is for no reason. It serves no point. You can't do anything. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
no, I agree with you. He just keeps doubling down here, and like he's doing it on the live show. He's doing it in front of America, so that this is kind of the impression that he wants to leave people with. A private conversation, even though technically it's not private, like a conversation that you decide to have with someone in the house is different from than going on live TV and just sitting there and trying to make her feel bad about the decision that she has
That
made.
she's
And
made.
and what makes it even worse is Julie follows up and asks Amy about, like, how do you feel about your decision now? And Amy says, I think it was probably the worst decision I could have made. I regret it completely. And like he has got her
Mm-hmm.
fully saying, like, I wish it was me going tonight because I made this deal and I should have stood by it. And this is essentially what Roddy wanted. He wanted her to completely submit to him,
Mm-hmm.
and she does that right
Mm-hmm.
on national
On
television. and
national.
and as she is essentially making this apology to him, he grabs her hand.
It says, "I forgive you.
Yes.
I forgive you." Oh,
Yes.
you should have saw me cursing. I was cursing because that is some deep. That's some true mastery of your manipulation.
Yep.
True mastery. I don't. Again, I am not a fantasy. I'm sorry. Go ahead with your thoughts. I'm sorry.
No, I totally agree with you. Like, this is a really sour note to leave Roddy on because it's just so ridiculous. And you know I'm also thinking, like, how would this have played in 2002? Like, which side would the audience be on? And I feel like a lot of I don't have any proof to back this up, but I feel like a lot of people would be on Roddy's side in this situation.
I would agree. I would agree because especially back then in 2002, you're coming off of this day and age where your word is bond. You don't
Yep.
necessarily have as much social media. You don't have anybody that you can check in with to kind of fact or bounce ideas off of. Your word is bond. That's all I know. And so
Mhm.
I can see, especially back in 2002, people agreeing with him 100%. You should have kept your word, even if that meant sacrificing yourself. So yeah, I would agree. And again, I'm with
Yeah.
you. No proof, but I
Yeah.
definitely, I definitely agree that I bet people would have been or were on his side.
Yeah, and that makes me feel even sadder for Amy because it's
Mm-hmm.
like here he's completely humiliated you on national television, and it's not like he's gonna go home and have to answer
To anything.
for any of this. It's you that's gonna have to answer for this, and like there's plenty that you're gonna have to answer for that you should have to answer for, but this should not be one of those
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah.
She had enough stuff that she doesn't need people piling on her for this. And so I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that the perception it was that this was kind of an unfair thing for him to do to her, but I can't say that with any confidence. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um so we cut to another commercial break, and we get our final vote in the diary room. We get Lisa, who says, "It's been really refreshing to know that there's two sides of Amy besides just the glamorous Southern belle. There's a real person in there too. It seems like ever since she came back, she felt like she had to take over the spotlight, that she had to be the center of attention all the time, and that gets a little exhausting to watch. Rod is a very strong player, and he would be able to get rid of two other strong players, being Danielle and Marcellas, before coming after me. He's not a threat to me, and I'm safe with Roddy in the house. It's a hard decision."
Yeah.
And so that is the thoughts that we are left with going into this eviction. But of course, when we come back from commercial break, we find out that Roddy has been evicted by a vote of 3-0.
Yeah. Oh, he was pissed. Like he
Mm-hmm.
was trying to hide it so well, walking out of that house, but hugging everybody and trying to get to his bag. It was just he was visibly pissed off. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he was. So
Yeah. He was this close. He just should have worked on Lisa a little bit harder, and maybe they could have made something happen. Who knows?
honestly, he probably could have, especially if he could have stuck it out with Jason.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that he probably could have. He didn't work the charm on the right people. You're working it on somebody that's on the block with you, which is stupid.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like if you're gonna do it, don't get me wrong, work that angle because she
Right.
eventually has the power of veto. I get it,
Right.
but that should not be like it should have been at least on Jason and Lisa. It should have been like the most of it, the bulk of it.
Yeah. I agree. So we get the interview that he does with Julie,
Mm-hmm.
and Julie asks him if he's surprised to be sitting there. He says, "I'm very surprised.
Which I
Yeah,
think was probably the best answer that we have heard because most of the time people they give these
right.
political answers, so I was
Yep.
really glad and happy to hear him say that he was actually shocked and surprised.
Yeah, it's a moment of honesty here, a little
Honesty,
bit
thank you.
of integrity. So, yeah, he says, "I had people promise me that they were going to keep me. Everyone had established themselves as being pretty credible. I'm just surprised that they all went against it." And, you know, Julie asks him, "What do you think happened?" He says, "I don't know, a little bit of conspiracy theories, touch of mass hysteria, maybe, but it's a game, I understand." And then we get into a little bit of what his strategy coming into the game was going to be. He says, "Everybody expected me to win all the head of households. We did all these fake head of household competitions, and I always won them, and so people just started to get scared of me. And so then when we did the real HOHs, I threw them." And then he says something that's interesting that I think is a very good type of gameplay to be doing in this era of Big Brother, where he says, "Every time someone would leave the house, I would mention house guests that had left. I was playing not just the house, but the people at home. I wanted people that had been evicted to like me as much at home because those were the people that I was actually playing. I was playing two games. I wanted them to know how much I cared about them and liked them, not just as people in the house."
Mm-hmm,
And,
mm-hmm.
I think
Smart.
that it's very smart because, I think something that is probably true is that when these people go home, like, maybe they're watching the entire show, or maybe they're just watching until they get evicted. So, you know, they may not be like looking up live feeds and stuff like that, because it was a lot more difficult to do that in 2002. You'd have to go to a message board and pour through all the archives, and it's a lot of tedious work. And so essentially, all you're getting is the narrative of the television program. And so, like, if you're in the DR, like, gassing somebody up and talking about how great they are, that's the only thing that they'll probably see. They're not going to see some comment you made about them in week 3. So,
good point. Good point. Fair point.
So I think that it is very critical to be using the diary room as much as you possibly can, and using these confessionals in any way that you possibly can. So, we don't really get too much else from him. He thinks that a lot of people, kind of didn't share a whole lot.
So she did ask him, "Did you ever lie in the game?"
Yeah.
And so that question alone I thought was unique. But of course, his response was, "No, I don't think so. At least I don't recall." Right. And then I love Julie for calling him out on knowing his charm, and if he actually used his charm against other people's weaknesses and insecurities. And his response was yes. So I think that this interview of a house guest that has been exited, or that has exited, I think this is probably one for me to highlight, I should say, as one that did seem very, very honest. So I was really, really shocked to hear him say that he actually did use it against their insecurities. I'm really shocked to hear that.
Yeah, I was shocked too. I didn't think he would admit that, because again, he's the guy that constantly is like, I don't lie, I play this game with integrity. So to see that he was very much aware that he was using his charisma, I gotta give him credit for at least that, even if I don't necessarily like the way that he left the game here.
I agree with you on that.
So he says that Danielle is a great competitor. He thinks that she's playing a good game, but he says that she did give me her word. She has sworn that she was going to keep her word, and I think that the rest of the house is aware that she broke her word, so that could come back to hurt her at the end. And he ends the interview by saying that he is rooting for either Lisa or Jason to win.
Yeah.
So not too surprising there.
No.
So that is where we leave Roddy, and then we go into the HOH competition.
Ooh, yes.
So it is called Freeze Frame, and essentially they are shown different clips of events that happened in the house, but the clip is frozen so that Julie can ask a question about the next thing that is either said or the next action that follows in the clip, and whoever gets the most points ends up winning the game. And this was a fun one to see. I didn't write down any of the questions, but this was one that was over relatively quickly here, as we get our new HOH Jason going into week 9 of Big Brother 3. So what do you think about this result? And what are you looking forward to?
I don't know what to think, because he is in very deep with Danielle, but we were given a little bit of an insight of who he is. And like I told you, I was really shocked to hear him say to threaten Marcellas. So maybe there is more to Jason than what I'm thinking. I'm still rooting for Jason. I still want him to win, of course. But now that he's HOH yet again, I don't know what he's going to do. We know Danielle is not going up on the block, but I would assume Marcellas is going up on the block. I'm almost 95 to 100% sure. I just don't know if it's going to be with Amy or with Lisa. And I probably would say Amy just for the hell of it. So, yeah. And I think he's going to put his little Joel Osteen tears on and smile and put Amy ass up there. And just, I see it. I just see it. I'm sorry. I just envisioned it. I say Amy and Marcellas. Let me write that down.
Oh, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be an interesting week as we're getting down to the final 5 here. And yeah, there's some interesting ways I think that this could play out here. So I think this is a great time for Jason to win an HOH here, and I'm curious to see what it is that he does here.
I almost wish Lisa would have won, to be honest with you. I really kind of do. I kind of because that would have shaken things up again, and so I would have been all here for it, at least to see what she would do.
Yeah, and she hasn't won an HOH since the first week, so kind of like Danielle, I gotta see something from her.
Well, yeah.
Well,
her strategy is so different,
right. I can't wait to see. Yeah, can't wait to see if she has an ace up her sleeve or something there. So, but I think that pretty much does it for week 8 of Big Brother 3. Any final thoughts that you have?
So right after the HOH competition, the house guests went back into the house, and I heard Marcellas say, "I apologize for that outburst." Did you hear that?
I heard something. I remember Amy being in the backyard crying, and I remember Marcellas having some kind of a conversation with Danielle, and I felt like it was in regards to Amy and kind of the fact that she was crying, and he seemed kind of upset with her still. So yeah, I don't necessarily know what that was in reference to.
Because I was like, I heard him apologize for the outburst. I was just like, what the hell? What outburst? I missed something. And I was going to ask you about the live feeds. But yeah, other than that, that was it for me. And so, I'm sorry. What was your question?
Oh, just any final thoughts about week 8?
I'm happy that it has occurred. I'm really glad that Roddy is officially gone. Again, I've washed my hands with Roddy. I hate to see this Amy version, still around with whatever's going on with her. But I think this was a very necessary and entertaining week. And so now let's see what happens with Jason and HOH. So, yeah.
All right, absolutely. I think it's going to be a fun one. It looks like we have 1 2-hour episode for this next week of Big Brother, so it will be interesting to see what they pack into this episode here. And yeah, so that is all we got for you. I think we can go ahead and plug our stuff. So awesome. Do you want to start us off here?
Absolutely. If you want to continue to be inspired by me, follow me on all social media, Inspired by Jimmy L, or just go to inspiredbyjimmyl.com. I'll see you there.
All right. And you can follow me at noahmassey.bsky.social on Blue Sky. And I think I'm just going to put all of our show socials down in the description, and so we won't go through that whole thing there because it's a long list. We will see you later, guys, as we welcome another member into the jury house.